PwC does an annual survey, and this questions a lot of chief executive officers about multiple aspects, including how they see business going forward. And since we are right now at the top of 2024, I'm going to request Sanjiv to start with and give us the key findings of the latest survey, and then we're going to open up to the entire panel for their views on the topics that Sanjiv mentioned. Sanjiv, over to you.
Thank you, Siddharth, and a very warm welcome from a very cold Davos to all of you. As Siddharth mentioned, we actually host an annual CEO survey. This is our 27th year that we've been doing it. And what I'm going to speak to you now is really what are the findings that have come from it. We interviewed 4,500 CEOs. So this survey actually is the sense and summary that they gave us. Now, what are they telling us? I think the headline news. First of all, there is more optimism this year than there was last year. Most CEOs believe that global growth would be better this year. In fact, the numbers are going up from 18% to 36% this year, which means CEOs are more optimistic about global growth this year. However, there is a challenge. 45% of them believe that if they continue to do the business in the way they are doing it, in 10 years' time, they will cease to exist. Now, these are two key data points that have come out of the CEO survey, which particularly the second one means that there is a need for business model reinvention. And I think that could be a good topic for our discussion as we move forward. There are a few other aspects which I would like to actually highlight. From an India perspective, India's ranking as a desirable investment destination continues to go up. And we are now number 5 in that pedigree. In fact, if I were to talk about some of the key clients that we have globally for the firm, from a PwC standpoint, India actually ranks number 3. So India's stock is continuing to grow, and I'm sure that we will see more of that manifesting in years to come. Now, a few other topics, as I mentioned. First and foremost, we all talk about sustainability, we all talk about technology, etc. Where India is actually standing out is the fact that India seems to be doing everything across all the 4 transitions that the world is seeing, whether it's a supply chain transition, energy transition, technology transition, and of course the demographic transition that the world is experiencing. The reason that India is much wanted is because India is central to each one of them. Indian CEOs, as a result, are far more sanguine. And, almost 86% believe that they will turn over better next year than they did in the previous years. In fact, if you were to look at a 3-year journey, 94% of them believe that they will do better over a 3-year period than they have done in previous periods. So obviously the Indian CEOs much more optimistic than the global CEOs about their ability to do more in years to come. And the good news is that in spite of everything, including technology and so on and so forth, there is going to be significantly additional employment generation that's going to happen in India. We keep talking about, is Gen AI going to disrupt the workforce, and there will be less employment. The statistics coming out of the CEO survey is that there will be greater employment in India, which is important because it means that growth in India will be inclusive. The other finding is that the focus is not just on services in India. Largely, one would say that India is services driven. We know the growth of GCCs in India, but I think the growth is getting a little bit more balanced. We have seen some relative success of the PLI schemes already, and with the uptake on that has been good. I think the focus on the manufacturing side is also now manifesting, which means at some level, the supply chain shifts that we spoke about are now starting to bear fruit. And I think as India plays a bigger role in both the energy transition and the supply chain transition, there will be more for us to do. I will just hit 3 more points, and then I'll hand it back to Siddharth. The first point. On technology, particularly when it comes to Gen AI, the survey actually shows that the CEO is possibly a little bit more optimistic as to what Gen AI might do. Interestingly, 32% believe that they have already adopted Gen AI, which seems a bit optimistic at this point in time. Many of them say that, almost 58% of them say that this is going to cause them to create efficiencies in their business. And, almost equal number are saying that this will help create greater trust in their business. Now, considering that we keep talking about risks like cybersecurity, you read the word Gen AI and you see hallucinations coming in the same paragraph. So this is something which I'm sure we'll get the panel's views. But clearly, I think a little bit of over-optimism about Gen AI. The second one, sustainability. I think clearly the focus on sustainability is evident, particularly on energy efficiency. I think decarbonization is something on which a lot of CEOs are focused on. But they seem to, always think about, is there enough demand? Point number one. And point number two, what are the kind of returns that I'll have if I focus too much on decarbonization? The last point that I will say, and CEOs in 2024 seemingly will be kept more busy, because as they look at reinventing their businesses, except regulation, everything is really in their control. Whether it is financial resources, whether it is adoption of technology, whether it is of cutting the administrative burden that their employees and they themselves face, a lot of what CEOs could do to reinvent their business is in their control, and we will have to dig deep to figure out how we will create those efficiencies and productivity gains. And I think that's something which means that all of us will have more to do in 2024.